How you doing, everybody? Blaster Joe here with another video. We're going to do a swap. We're going to remove the stock impeller and replace it with a Solus. That Solus prop is pitched by Dean's team. It's between 1317 and 1318. Should get me around 8800 RPM without any cavitation. So here we go. There's your pump. There's my extended nozzle. That nozzle is also by Dean's team. It's bored out to 90 millimeters, extended by a good inch. That gives you more adjustment on your trim and more throw on your steering. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get that bucket out of the way. You see that linkage there? I see a lot of guys on YouTube unscrewing that. You don't have to unscrew it. Just pop it off. You see how that goes in? Pops right off. There's no reason for you to take the post off. And then guess what? Look at that. Your bucket drops down. You got a 12 millimeter bolt right there on the other side of that spring. Another one on the other side. Here's your trim. Here, let's see if we get a better look at this. It's a little stuck. Yeah, that one looks like it's a little stuck. So we're gonna, instead I don't have much of a nails, so we're gonna push it back with a screwdriver. Oh yeah, it's stuck. There you go. See the post? Post is still on there. No need to unscrew that. You're wasting time. Yamaha made it that way. Quick and easy removal. So I'm gonna get that bucket off and get that steering nozzle off. This plate, a lot of people remove that plate. You need that plate. You see, that plate keeps this whole pump housing from flexing up, causing unnecessary pressure on your transom plate and cracking your hull or cracking the plate. This is here for a very good reason. You don't want your jet pump flexing. So reverse bucket is off. Now you're looking at your steering linkage. Right up here, that's a 5 millimeter Allen. And right on the bottom is a 10 millimeter nut. That has to come off. 14 millimeter, you got 4 of them. 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. 12 millimeter here. The pisser hose has to come off. Mine is blocked off. I got a 7/16 nylon ball with some silicone inside the hose, so my visibility spout is disabled. Then this goes to the manual bilge inside of the hull, connected to a one-way valve. And if there's any water inside your hull, this creates mild suction and pulls it out. It uses the force of the water coming out to create suction through that hose. Jet nozzle, steering nozzle, it's out. Now, you pop this your linkage off of the post. Get it out of the way so you don't bend it. Or 14mm bolts. You got 4 of them back there. Then on the bottom, all the way in the back, I don't know if I can get to that with the camera view so you can see it, but there's a 10mm bolt right there. That's for your cooling system. It keeps water from leaking and squirting out the side. It makes sure that your pump is firmly seated. So now if your jet nozzle doesn't want to come off, right here is a spot where you could put a screwdriver in and tap it and pop it off. Now, you got to do that from the bottom. So the ride plate would have to come off. But since I had this off, it comes off easy. You got 2 dowel pins, stainless steel dowel pins. Don't lose those. That's how you locate your pump nozzle and your steering nozzle. While you're in here, lube up your steering cable. So here we have a nice long breaker bar, 1/2-inch breaker bar with a 29mm socket, impact socket. We have a 27mm combination wrench, some anti-seize, a WR014H drive shaft adapter, a WR014A Solus install tool, and a 13mm combination wrench. Those are all the tools you need to remove an impeller and to install a Solus impeller. Now, I've been replacing, removing, upgrading impellers for a very long time. Longer than I'd like to say. So, this is by far the best method I've ever found. You drive your truck over the breaker bar. You have your adapter and your 29mm socket. There's your pump, and there's your 27mm combination wrench. Now, Yamaha impellers are left-handed thread. So, it's not righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. It's lefty-tighty, righty-loosey. So, you're going to need about 200 pounds of force to get that to pop off. So, let me loosen that impeller and I'll be right back. So, I got the impeller loose. So, I'm going to turn as if I was tightening. And you're going to notice after a couple of turns, the impeller impeller's loose. See? Now, while you're in here, you got to check that sleeve. It's a stainless steel sleeve with a rubber wedge all the way around. Gotta make sure there's no gouges in that. It didn't get chewed up. You got to check your prop, the edge of your prop. If you see that, there's no burn marks on your impeller. It's not a prop, it's an impeller. No burn marks. That edge right here, the edge should not be sharp. It should not be lifted. You also have a clearance all the way around. So make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. You see the threads? They're greased up. I'm gonna put some anti-seize on that. So on the left, you have your Solus impeller. And on the right, you have your OEM impeller. They look similar, but they're not. You cannot compare an OEM pitch with a Solus progressive pitch. Now, that's the edge I was talking about. If you run your finger across it, it shouldn't be lifted. It should be even. If it's lifted, it means the impeller was hitting the stainless steel sleeve. This impeller is perfect. It's not lifted, it's not dinged, it's not damaged. Everything is fine. Here's the Solus. And if you look at the trailing edge, that's where Dean does his magic. Probably that much of the blade. When you take off, you're using the front of the blade. On top end, you're working more off the tail of the blade. Now, as you see, I flipped over to the other side. Breaker bar, 29mm, impact socket, WR014H, 36mm combination wrench. The Solus install tool, WR014A. The Solus impeller. And I'm gonna have to give this about at least 200 pounds of force. You got to be careful. You don't want to slide this out, snap your tool, or damage the impeller. That's why I have the wrench facing away. All right, that's the impeller. It's torqued down on the drive shaft. Now, if you fail to properly torque the impeller onto the drive shaft, what's gonna happen is, if you snap the throttle, there's a opposite directional force on the impeller, and your impeller can come loose. It could come loose a few turns. It could come completely loose. I've seen both. Then, when you hit the throttle hard, it'll spin back onto the thread, either destroying the thread on your drive shaft or slamming onto it so tight that you'll have to cut it off with a torch. I've had that happen. Additionally, and Jerry Gaddis will tell you this, Solus comes with an aluminum nose cone. And it has a little set screw, an Allen set screw, that you're supposed to put on here. So, they come silver, they come blue, they're anodized. We don't put those on. And the reason for that is, it's no matter how tight you tighten that set screw, you're either going to strip the aluminum but it's always going to loosen and come off. And then that nose cone will be up here and it'll float around. It won't stay here. Additionally, and this is, many racers have told me this throughout the years, you're faster and less cavitation, low end, mid range, without the cone. I don't know why. Even Jerry Gaddis will tell you he doesn't know why. It's just you're better off running without that little aluminum nose cone. So everything's ready to go back in. It goes in exactly the way it came out. Make sure you lube everything up. Spray that steering cable down. Blue Loctite on all your bolts. As you can see, everything's back on. Steering linkage. You got to remember that when you put your jet nozzle and your steering nozzle back on, because it has to go on the inside of this plastic. If you leave it lying on your ride plate, then you're going to have to take everything off again to get that in the center. Okay? Your visibility nozzle hose, that's connected. Manual pump bilge, that's back on. All that needs is a wire tie, nice and tight. Your trim linkage, back on. Your reverse bucket linkage, back on. If you start to ski without that reverse linkage back on, it has to cycle when you start to ski. You will get a YDS code of 159 or a YDS code of 1. And that is an obstruction on your reverse bucket. It's a ride system code error. The next time you start it and it does the sequence, it'll disappear, but it'll beep. It's annoying. So I sprayed everything with CRC 656. Everything's ready to go. Everything's in. I believe the torque for the 14 millimeter bolts is 24 pounds. The torque for the 12 millimeter bolts at the top is 18 pounds. That bolt right there going into the brass insert on the plastic, that's about 8 pounds. The bolt, that 10 millimeter bolt, that's all the way back there, that's about 5 to 8 pounds. And your steering linkage, that's about 5 to 8 pounds. The nut is about 5 pounds at the bottom. It's a small 10 millimeter bolt, stainless steel. If you over tighten it, it'll gall up. Blue Loctite on everything. So next time you guys hear from me, I'll be doing a speed run.